My name is Rajesh, and I lead the emerging technology practice at PwC nationally. I'm also part of the what we call as intelligent data analytics and cloud practice. I'm part of the leadership team over there. And the subject today is to talk about decentralized identities, whichever is good, decentralized or centralized identity. And we are fortunate to get a bunch of practitioners because they're going to bring in practitioner knowledge and not a bookish kind of a knowledge. I've known Ajay, I've known Kalyan from AYANWORKS now for about 5-6 years. In COVID, me and Kalyan were stuck up at Phoenix. So we used that time to discuss not about COVID, but a lot about blockchain during those lockdown in Phoenix way back in 2020. Padmaja is from CDAC. She's been working on an interesting initiative called Vishwasneer. She will talk about that. Mohit is from KrypC, and he'll also bring in some inputs. It's quite funny, right? I'll narrate you a example. One day a banker came home, the banker executive, and then was asking for identity document of my wife. And she's a cost accountant. So she's written, this is only for this particular purpose, and she signed all over the place. Then I asked her, do you think this sign is valid? She says, at least I'm happy. I don't know whether it is valid or not, but it is still, I'm happy. And this has been about 5 or 6 years ever since we were exposed to that kind of a practice. And when I was in TechM before, I remember having deeper conversations with Verizon. They architected what is called as Verizon ID with a company called One Cosmos. And Verizon wanted to become a central repository for authentication and validation. I don't know how that particular thing has went along, but what I noticed in India, Digi Yatra is doing a significant amount of things, right? In terms of it's about your ID, it is about verifiable credentials, reusable credentials. Suresh, who is in the session here in some other hall, he'll never talk about, he's the CEO of Digi Yatra Foundation, he'll never talk about blockchain. But in essence, in the back end, it's all being archived on blockchain. With that as a context, would like to open it for Padmaja. What are you seeing in this place? How is this evolving? And especially my frustration goes up when I go to the same hotel next day, they'll ask the same authentication. When I make an entry into office, my destiny is in the control of the 10th class pass security guard who will decide whether I'm worthy to go into the building or not. So there are many, many such use cases that are going to come up, right? It'll be good to get your perspective, then Mohit and Ajay.
Sure. So already one example you have taken about the decentralized identity, especially when it is carried with your own pocket, that is Digi Yatra. That you don't have to rely on anybody, you are putting your boarding pass, it is getting verified, only your face recognition, that too, available in your own pocket, being matched with. So it is like complete your PII data along with you. You don't have to rely on anybody. You don't have to worry about that someone will be snatching or there will be some kind of a hack on somebody else's database and you will be losing your credentials.
Right.
I will take this opportunity also to inform you that I'm working with CDAC and I work on multiple national level e-governance projects. One of them is Meri Pehchan.
What
and
is
that
it
is Meri Pehchan.
Meri Pehchan. Okay,
so it is about identity.
Right.
And it's a single sign-on which is provided for most of the government applications. And this is e-Praman is one of the single sign-on what we offer. Now here, obviously, we know from the security perspective, everybody talks about you should not be having only one authentication factor. You should have multiple authentication factors. And every single sign-on provides various factors of authentication where services can decide that which authentication factors they would like to adopt. And accordingly, this IAM, that is Identity Management System, provides those kind of authentication authentication, takes them from the user and is releasing. Actually, the problem that you said that hotel person every time asking you for the same thing and you are giving iCard and he is looking at the iCard multiple times, ensuring that you have really given a true iCard and not the faulty one. Okay, this kind of a single sign-on works fine. However, now, if I look at it, it's a huge responsibility of storing credentials of millions of people of India and in the cloud. So what one needs to do is keeping all the eggs in one basket and securing that basket, which becomes a humongous task, especially in India. But if it is being given, and another important aspect, we today were talking in the earlier session also about the scalability and performance. That becomes a crucial part when you are doing any kind of development in India. Now, whenever we are developing this kind of an infrastructure, of course, we do require huge infrastructure, firstly. Secondly, not just security, another aspect we have to ensure that you will be able to give the performance. There will not be DDoS or that kind of attacks happening, but you will be able to provide as many requests coming to you at any point in time.
And what stage is it, this?
It's already running for
Mary
past 7 years. At
7
least.
years. And
Yeah.
who are the ones who are using it?
There are multiple government organizations.
B2B or B2C?
It is B2C.
B2C. Okay.
So if you see now in Rajasthan, you go and say Rajasthan single sign-on. Earlier, all the services of Rajasthan were accessible to the Rajasthan citizens.
Right.
Now, with this Meri Pehchan, they are able to access all across India any service that they want.
Understood.
So, unfortunately, many of us require government services to be accessed very rarely. But this is now getting even to, we are working with KrypC, we are working with EPFO and making them available on this so that citizens don't have to remember multiple credentials.
Right.
But still, I would say that the next step to it must be a self-sovereign identity.
Yeah.
I carry that in my pocket will be the best thing, which will help me make it more and more scalable.
Understood.
Because there will not be concurrency that I have to bother about. What we need to bother about that whatever app we are providing to the citizens to store their identities,
Understood.
I have to have the security, and another aspects, of course, verifiability.
Understood.
Yeah.
So Mohit, it'll be good to get your perspective. Before that, I'll come back to you because we'll get the perspectives from the speakers and we'll come back to you. Over to you, Mohit.
Yeah, from our perspective, I would say in my personal thing, DID, W3C standards, they are quite matured and they've been existing from maybe around 7 to 10 years, maybe older than that.
Right.
And now from last 5-6 years, people and technology started marrying this and blockchain. Primarily, blockchain was more about communication and then storage of the issuer credentials or the issued metadata. But fundamentally, DID can work without blockchain. It doesn't. It's just a repository and an authentic repository. Now, last 7 years, there are multiple things we have been doing. It's a typical life cycle, credential issuance, credential communication, right? And then the evolutions of, like for example, the Polygon ID. Then in Linux Foundation, we had always multiple projects, Indian Aries, where we could deploy our own credential system. And then Microsoft Azure, there are Entara and other things. So the latest challenge for us was how to ensure that everyone can leverage everyone else issued credential. On papers, it is quite possible if we have a common registry and we are able to verify them, it's possible. But coming to the end user, it's not going to be so easy. Now, for example, I won't say DG Yatra, any other application where we are using DID, the mobile application, it's a trusted software. It ensures that the credentials were generated there. But when we want to expand this dimension to multiple issuers, that, okay, in India I have this, or I have created an ecosystem where I have an issuer and my issued credentials can be used on your ecosystem and vice versa. So fundamentally it is possible, but there is a barrier here. How to make it easy?
Understood.
And now how to make your own experience going to a hotel or going somewhere and showing my DID or credential, then definitely we need biometric or some way to get authenticated, because there are two fundamental problems. What you see is what you sign.
Yeah.
Old thing which we all came through when we started signing, for example, any cryptographic or blockchain transactions.
Right.
So we started trusting MetaMask and others, right? Even today, we really don't know whether the actual transaction has is signed, what is the data inside this. Second is, if I lose my private key, what will happen? Would I lose my ID, which is not practical for a human to take it? That means, like how account abstractions have come in the world of Web3, something have to come up here,
Right.
letting that if this credential wallet fails, how to take over other, how to create guardian. So without that, end user usage is getting restricted. It's more in B2B and or a closed loop system.
The point is, in terms of technology has been around for quite some time, right? It's not that technology has not been around. It's about the adoption. When I used to run telecom business way back in 2000 in Khan Latif Khan estate here, Tata Cellular, one day there was a huge ruckus. Our CEO called me and said, I need to speak to you. And then I went and said, what is the problem? Did you see the prepaid card identity documents that have come in? His secretary photo was put on a prepaid ID card for somebody else. So I had to go to the salespeople and say, boss, if you're under pressure, don't do that. Then they said, how do we get the numbers? I mean, off the record, I can say, put somebody else's photo, but not the CEO secretary's photo, right? Because there was no deterrent that point of time, and over a few years or maybe 10 years later, a lot of technology has come. So Ajay, from your point, you guys are doing a lot of stuff in Bhutan, the national ID. What are you seeing in that particular space? Why is it happening in Bhutan and why not in some other country? I'm sure there must be some motivation factor or some driving factors, right?
I think certainly we have come a long way, like as we see, 8-9 years, this is in place. Earlier, like when Sovereign launched in 2017, it was pretty much, they did a very good groundwork, but it was pretty much locked into certain ledgers like Hyperledger India and so. We have come a long way to detach decentralized identity infrastructure from ledgers and just hook up the DIDs and the credential metadata to the ledger. So we are utilizing ledgers now. And yes, now we are talking about a big implementation at a population scale like DJ Yatra. Aadhaar is also, embracing and adopting verifiable credentials. And yes, why Bhutan did it? Like Bhutan was stuck into, again, the early, technology choices they had available, starting with proprietary, moving to open source. And then, they did it in the beginning that His Highness, of the Royal Government of Bhutan, they had a vision to, implement blockchain-based digital identity, and they had option in front of them, like, okay, there is centralized identity, there is federated one, and this one is self-sovereign identity, which embraces user-centric, identity.
Right.
And it was a choice made by them, and the not just technology or trending choice, but they locked this decision into their law. So they build a law around self-sovereign identity, just like we have the UIDAI, related regulations. And the whole implementation, we help them in, decoupling from their proprietary infrastructure. And whatever the initial implementations that we did, we donated the entire decentralized infrastructure under Linux Foundation.
So one is the monarch wanted to do it, but there could be other compelling reasons. It's not just because the monarch wanted to do it, right? Did you see any compelling reasons over there?
Of course, decentralization is the one thing. I mean, the entire governance with this new king has embracing, more and more inclusive decision making in the government. And this is one of the decision that, I have heard that the king reaches to every citizen to participate in the governance, make suggestions. Though it is a monarchy, they are embracing a lot of principles of democracy.
Understood. And which other countries do you see coming up the curve? In the past we have seen Sovereign Foundation, we have seen Earth ID, and so many other things. They're very good initiatives, but it takes time to implement them on a scale basis.
Bhutan is relatively, if you compare with India, it's a relatively small population of close to 1 million. Out of 800,000 citizens, 50% are onboarded now. Almost they are onboarding like 50,000 citizens every month.
Right.
But it's still a small scale. This is the first example in the world of using SSI-based digital identity. And we also did another pilot rollout for a small country again called Papua New Guinea, close to Australia. And we see, and many of us are already observing that we see a lot of demand, a lot of interest in the entire global south around decentralized identity. And Pramod also mentioned and the FinTech stack, that verifiable credential is such a fantastic spec that it is helping us to adopt this.
Probably there's an opportunity for multiple things to converge, right? You have UPI, which is used extensively for payments. You have DigiYatra, which is used extensively for identity. We have the representation from NPCI. In terms of probably, have one single stack which does everything from provisioning to validation to, I don't know, maybe it is coming over a period of time. What do you guys are seeing from a DigiYatra perspective? DigiYatra for buildings, DigiYatra for hotels, DigiYatra for amusement parks.
So far, at least I know, I'm not aware about any new features which can get added into DigiYatra. However, just my thought which I'm sharing over here, we are already working on to a self-sovereign identity which can be made available as an application to anybody to use, and that will be a part of our national blockchain framework, which has been launched as Vishwasya. So the phase 2 of Vishwasya we are now started working on, that can be made available. One thought just that what I was thinking about, we do have DigiYatra. Similarly, we have heard about the education platform, which is also having a separate identity developed and all. But again, if we look at as a citizen perspective, I'm having too many identities still to carry about, right? The way currently it is discussed for Bhutan, can't it be for us as well? Simplify the life of citizens. And I feel that that is the point where I feel private and even government needs to work together in reducing the efforts of citizens in having so many identities. Somewhere I feel that this decentralized identity or self-sovereign identity should be such that I don't have to carry too many documents. Every time I am going on DigiLocker, I have to produce this certificate, I have to produce that certificate. Why so many? Just to prove that I am myself, can't I just be trusted onto some single document? So
absolutely.
I'm looking for that and hoping that that will be the thing that we will work it out.
We work at PwC, we work with number of governments. We're working with government of Rajasthan and the other governments. They're looking at this identity as a way to validate for their social benefits.
Exactly.
So there's a multitude of things.
So for example, in Rajasthan, you do have Bhamasha.
Correct.
Exactly. But just imagine that every state starts making their own IDs or every platform starts creating their IDs. Today we were just fighting with the passwords. Tomorrow we will be having password plus IDs plus something. And our mobile will be just full of all those kind of stuff.
Then agentic AI can help you there.
So it will be assured that, okay, AI will kill us.
I think
you had a question. Can we get a mic to him because I'm not able to hear him? Or maybe you can come in the front and... Yeah, please come here.
Yeah, my name is Dev.
Hi, Dev.
Hi. No, I suppose two of the panelists have already...
A little closer.
Two of the panelists have already said those words that I wanted to actually ask, because since morning I have been hearing about verified credentials.
Yeah.
I was just wondering whether we are talking about W3C standards. And then also this is a personal take. Unlinkability, that is something that I see Indians not talk. I'm an Indian. I
Right.
live in India.
Yeah, understood.
In the sense, this is not talking about unlinkability because that's a matter of concern many times. Um, so I just wanted to have your thoughts on
Yeah.
unlinkability.
Yeah, that's. I think it's so ingrained into the social fabric of Indians. Often we ask the neighbors, "What is our Wi-Fi password?" Right? They know our Wi-Fi password better than us. So it's ingrained into the social fabric. Anybody wants
Yeah,
to?
I think unlinkability is such an important aspect of any. I mean, if you talk about verifiable credentials, initial implementations of which are based on ANAN creates 1.0, unlinkability is baked into it. Even the 2.0 spec talks about unlinkability. That when I'm presenting as a holder, when I'm presenting presentation, there has to be. We should separate out the verifier and the issuer.
So
right?
collusion is something that, sure collusion.
Yeah, that.
I'm on the W3C mailing list,
Uh,
so I keep.
Yeah, that will certainly be there in terms of that's intentional fraud and not unintentional fraud. So there's a thin line between the both from a collusion perspective. But the native nature of the technology is such that you will come to know if somebody is trying to take over the system.
Yeah.
I'll come to you.
But I think there are advances in that as well. Like how do we avoid collision about
Right.
in every presentation? Can it be based signed on using different signatures every presentation?
Right. A good example is DigiYatra. All of us have been using it for about 1 year, more than 1 year now. Yes. How many cases have been recorded saying that your identity has been stolen away at the airport gate? Very, very limited. People have a need to do that or just to scam the system, but at least maybe people in the audience can correct me. I have not come across a single case of such compromise. And again, we are working with DigiYatra to give them a roadmap of how to do DigiYatra 2.0. And for non-travel applications, what is that we have to do? That is something is in the works. We will be publishing a paper, joint paper very, very soon because there's a need. According to me, I wrote a paper published by World Economic Forum in terms of why blockchain is becoming a mainstream. It's not because of technology, it's not because of scalability. It's because of the human nature. You go to the global CXOs and talk to them, they'll say this is not required. The first answer is this is not required. Second answer is this will not work. Third, let some mishap happen, then we'll come to you. So because of that, there's a lot of lethargy and unwilling. That's why I asked him that question, right? In terms of monarch will come and say, do it, in this country, we can have a prime minister to do that, but the debate will go into a different dimension altogether, right? Acting like a monarch, or in US, no kings are needed, what the kind of movements that have happened with Trump's executive orders and stuff like that. Yeah, Arvind.
So when you say the private sector and government to work, right? So I have been in touch with multiple stakeholders from IT to CDAC. But when we kind of discuss how do we participate, it was always kind of...
I know.
Yeah, so...
There are... Okay.
Start kind of getting open, when do we access that? And
yeah, for
got launched in
long back, and we are actually waiting where currently Vishwasya has certain frameworks supported, mostly Hyperledger, because of course all the work that we do in government is working on open source. So far we are providing it low code, no code for Hyperledger Fabric, Sawtooth. We are also working on Besu. Of course, CDAC cannot complete all the platforms on this, and where again we do require support from startup, and they provide this kind of a feature onto it, pluggable kind of platforms over here. What we are stuck up currently in, how we will be able to provide them the business model. Because today, if I want to have some kind of a plugin provided for, let's say, Indie, and what will I get? Why should I do this kind of a work for government? If I am a startup, I require to gain something from it. So currently we are trying to work it out on how to have the collaboration so that it will be a good business model and sustainable one. It should not happen that today I am giving you money for building this, later on forget, I don't know if someone will come or not. So it will not be a sustainable kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is where currently it is stuck up.
So what
We are
is
trying to
needed
come
is,
out with-
we did demon with currency, we have to do demon or de-identification with
Yes.
identities. This morning you guys have seen the news, right? Redford, 5 Bangladeshis have been arrested with a questionable identity. Now it's a huge national security risk. And some of these things, they keep coming up in multiple areas. I think it's one will, or maybe bring it into the political narrative, tell the Babu, this is good for your next election, maybe it'll happen that time.
Yeah. But I would also like to add one point. See, today or otherwise also, we have seen that most of the private sector is doing a lot of research, especially in the blockchain. Okay, and the work is a lot. It cannot be done only by one or two government organizations. So we need that kind of collaboration. Now I can always say that from CDAC perspective, we do have various mechanisms with which we would like to engage with private sector so that the research can be taken. We can act like a catalyst, because otherwise we are doing the redundant work again and again, does not make sense. Right. And for that we have evolved with certain mechanisms. We call it as intent of association.
Actually, we proposed to Sunita ma'am,
Yeah.
Lakshmishwari ma'am, like,
Yeah.
why don't we create a sandbox initial? Let people come with intent
Yes.
and let them do something on top of it. And then obviously what the private sector players can make will be decided. And then a cut off it. I mean somewhere.
Actually, I'm even pushing that, the activity that we are pushing right now. Only issue currently is there is a limited infrastructure, and there is discussion happening that which applications to allow. Once we open, there will be lots of application coming and there will be a selection to be done. So we are working on that, but I'm hoping that within 1 or 2 months I should be able to share that news with you. That kindly. I understand. I will again remind Sunita ma'am for that.
Ajay,
Yes.
thank you, Padmaja. Ajay, Mohit, any views from you, any add-on views from you?
I think we're part of LFDT now. Credible, the community is growing. We're targeting the global south, because in Africa also there's a lot of community trying to adopt verifiable credentials. So I would urge everyone to join us to build the decentralized infrastructure for India.
Excellent. Mohit?
Yeah, like I will go back to my thing that the vision of decentralized ID when it started and what we are talking today are not different.
Yeah.
And I think the system have broken somewhere. Let's take a very basic example. We are talking about ecosystem. Though we are talking about decentralized identity,
Right.
W3 credential system, which was supposed to be interoperable by design, by thinking.
Right.
Every machine can talk to each other. The conventional PKI had a problem. That's why it came up, right? So there are two gaps here. One is the issuer thing. Like today in India, we have CCA impaneled multiple PKI like eMudra and other or VeriSign. We don't have any trusted issuer registry. Like in Europe, there are something happening. Now, and then we have a lot of SDKs for development. And now on one side, like she mentioned that multiple people are issuing, multiple issuers are there. But if you see the foundation, that was the need that multiple issuers can be there. This technology will help us to identify what is the recipient needing based on decide from your wallet which is the issuer credential to share. So it have broken. We are talking about the ecosystem. So if I have created an SDK, for example, using Hyperledger, Indies, Aries, or any other thing, as a developer, if the issuers have given their metadata, their schema, anyone should have been able to create an app and no need to install only DigiYatra. I'm just giving an example. It applies for every application. So to get into a large scale, there is a lot of things to be done. We have to solve the problem of some linkability, unlinkability issues. So user with his wallet should be able to link and unlink everything.
Right.
So wallet ecosystem is the most challenging thing which we need to solve.
Right. Wonderful. Any final questions from the audience for the speakers? Otherwise, we can bring this to close. Okay, no more questions. I think obviously Often people say future is bright, so future is bright for identities as well. So let's wait and see how bright it will get. Thank you.
Thank you.